Okay, I think we're good to go for recording. Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Right. So this session is launching our Worrying About Money leaflet, and it's a 45-minute session today. The leaflet and the session have been devised to support anyone who has sort of interaction with people who may be looking for financial support or have money worries, as part of the advice that they offer to people and that in roles that they volunteer in. And this session is really geared to sort of give you some hints and tips about how to approach these conversations. This is the first time that we're delivering this session, and we'd welcome your feedback at the end. There will be a link for a very short evaluation questionnaire shared, and we'd really appreciate you taking your time out to fill that in. So your hosts today, myself, Versha Hurry, I'm from Social Security Scotland, and I'm the person responsible for setting up our local delivery service within Aberdeen City and Aberdeenshire. I'm joined by Jill Smith from NHS Grampian, who's the North Public Health Coordinator. We also have Samantha Rawlins, who's from Aberdeenshire Council, the Community Planning Officer for Martin. And we have Emma Wood, who's Social Security Scotland as well, and is a client support advisor covering Aberdeenshire. We've got a couple of housekeeping pieces of information just to keep you all comfortable. And cameras can be on or off. It's entirely what works for you best. I would request that microphones be on mute, please, unless you are speaking. And I'd encourage you to raise your hands to ask questions. And if you've got your video on, just raising your hand in your video box, that is also fine. And if you have access to the raise your hand button on MS Teams, please use that also. And if you can't do either of those, but you'd like to put something forward and you can use the chat function, please do use the chat function as well. And it will be monitored, so we'll be able to pick those up as we go through the session today. Right. To talk to you a little bit about what our learning outcomes will be today. And we have a focus on just increasing our knowledge of the cash first response when it comes to income crisis. Would like to raise awareness of Worrying About Money leaflet and how it can be used. And hopefully through that provide you some tips on how to guide a conversation for somebody who might be looking for support and access. There's also going to be a little element of background. So we'll be talking about poverty and deprivation. And I'm going to hand over to Jill, Sam and Emma to take you through to the next sort of session. Next part of the session. Thank you, Jill.
Apologies. Thank you, Versha. So what does poverty mean? There are many definitions of poverty available. The top one on the slide is by Joseph Rowntree Foundation, an independent foundation working to solve poverty in the UK. The foundation is highlighting here poverty as not being able to heat your homes, pay your bills, or buy the essentials for your children, described as minimum needs. It means waking up every day facing insecurity, uncertainty, and impossible decisions about money. The constant stress individuals can be under can lead to problems that deprive them a chance to play a full part in our society today. The second quote here on the slide is by Nelson Mandela. He has made several quotes similar to this in relation to poverty. You have maybe seen this before, familiar with it. He is implying that poverty is man-made through collective actions, but highlights that it can be removed if humans work together in a selection of actions. A very thought-provoking quote made by Nelson Mandela back in 2005. Yet today, we are still seeing high numbers of individuals impacted by poverty within our communities.
So I'll now go through with you some recent statistics around poverty in Scotland, and these come from the Poverty Inequality Scotland website, and the statistics were published covering April 2020 to March 2021. So 1 in 4 children in Scotland are living in poverty. 1 in 5 working age people in Scotland are living in poverty. 60% of working age adults are in poverty, and 65% of children in poverty live in a household where someone is in employment. 15% of pensioners in Scotland are living in poverty. 35% of minority ethnic people are in poverty, as opposed to 18% of white British people. 39% of single women with children are living in poverty in Scotland, and 29% of those who live with a disabled household member live in poverty in Scotland. We felt it was important to highlight some of the data around poverty and deprivation within our own area. And in this slide, we'll speak about someone being deprived or in deprivation. It does not just mean poor or low income. It can also mean someone has fewer resources and opportunities. And this is a definition that has been taken from the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation. We know from research that the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation is carried out that people living in rural areas experience deprivation differently from those living in towns and cities. Particular issues in rural areas include higher consumption of fuel for heating and transport, less accessible key services, including healthcare, childcare and broadband, and limited opportunities to earn adequate income compared to the more urban areas. Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation research has also highlighted that within rural areas, not all income-deprived people live within a deprived area. In rural areas, it's 1 in 4 people living in a deprived area that are income-deprived. However, 9 out of 10 people experiencing income deprivation do not live within a deprived area. In Aberdeenshire, between 2020 and 2021, data shows us that the proportion of residents aged 16 to 64 claiming unemployment more than doubled. Aberdeenshire had a 28% higher change in unemployment compared to the Scottish average, and as of the 31st of March 2021, 14,400 jobs were furloughed in Aberdeenshire. And I'll put the links to the statistics mentioned in these slides in the chat bar at the end of the presentation.
Thanks, Emma. So to understand the stigma people feel, rather than us projecting what we think stigma feels like, we asked the Lived Experience Forum to tell us how it feels. And we have Agnes with us today. So can you pass on our thanks for allowing us to share these, Agnes, please? They're quite powerful statements, and it shows us that we need to address these issues to make things more equitable. The first 2 quotes reflect what Emma has just raised regarding deprivation and rurality. It is easy to gain opportunities depending on your postcode. Certain financial backgrounds still seem to allow better prospects, as does your address. Aberdeenshire Council, like NHS Grampians, seem to forget not everyone has access to computers and internet, or even know how to use those devices, and nor does everyone have cars or access to vehicles to access certain services, which is resulting in leaving even more people isolated. So as much as I understand the need to some of the changes. The third quote obviously shows how it feels to be a parent just trying to do the best for their child and want the things that a lot of us will take for granted. There are opportunities out there for children if you can afford them. Children from low-income families grow up with low self-esteem and no motivation to have a better life. So far, my child isn't worthy of a house with a garden, isn't worthy of child maintenance payments, isn't worthy of a decent standard of education, isn't worthy of pursuing her interests and passions of working with animals, isn't worthy of having her health issues seen to due to long waiting lists. If that powerful insight doesn't resonate with us as individuals and tell us we need to make a change happen, I'm not sure what would. The final quote on the slide cements all of the quotes from the Lived Experience Forum that were shared with us. The decision made by council officials or politicians need to reflect the people those decisions directly affect, right down to the poor families. So yes, if you want equality and equal rights for all, yes, we need to be part of the process. The quotes show just how important it is to continue the dialogue with people living and experiencing how a lack of money is for them, and that we need to continue to deliver the right support to the right people at the right time. I'll now hand back to Jill.
Thank you, Sam. So what can we do? What can all of us do? As highlighted in the previous slides, unemployment rates has increased, causing more and more people to be struggling financially across Aberdeenshire. Within our communities, help is available. We have food banks, we've got larders, we've got community shops. The impact of COVID-19 has also created resilience groups who have provided much needed help and support in the form of food, clothing, basic essentials. However, this is a temporary response to ultimately low and insecure incomes for those individuals. Individuals who are struggling financially need access to cash. We can all play a part in ensuring that these individuals are aware of the financial entitlements and emergency cash payments available to them. This, in turn, will enable them to buy the food, heat their homes, pay the rent. The next few slides introduce you to our new Worrying About Money leaflet for Aberdeenshire. The leaflet is referred to as a cash-first solution. It's designed for us all as a tool to use when having a brief conversation with clients, individuals around money worries, and where to signpost them to receive the most appropriate help to them as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Jill. So I'm going to talk you through the Worrying About Money leaflet. And before we start, I just want to highlight that this is the Highland Council version. We had hoped to have the Aberdeen version available for you today, but unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, it wasn't possible. However, the example that I'm going to talk through will be usable, and it hopefully give you some insight as to how this leaflet can be used. So this has been designed to and produced and put together by a range of partners, and it's been supported by the Independent Food Aid Network. And it's a straightforward resource for individuals facing financial crisis, and for those who are supporting them to quickly be able to have a look and see what advice and cash first support options are available and which are the best agencies placed to help. This slide shows step 1, and step 1 identifies what type of financial problem is being experienced. And here are 4 examples. I suddenly have no money. My money doesn't stretch far enough. I have debt. I am waiting on a benefit payment decision. Under each of these headings is a C option number. And we're going to talk through the first option, the first problem as our example, so we can highlight the journey for the person that you might be interacting with. So I suddenly have no money. And under that heading, there are 4 options shown, and the numbers of those options are 1, 2, 5, and 6. Let's move to step 2. So this slide shows step 2. And on this, we can see that the problem that we're talking through shows that the options 1 is Scottish Welfare Fund, 2 is maximise your income, 5 is hardship payment, and 6 a challenging decision. Again, under each of these steps, there's a further symbol for where you can get help. And we're going to choose 1, which is the Scottish Welfare Fund. And if you look at that box, you can see that there is a B, and C. And we can move to step 3. And for step 3, the options were A, B, and C. So on this slide, we can see that those options are A, the council, B, Citizens Advice Bureau, and C, the Scottish Welfare Fund. Now, each has either or both a phone number, an email, and a website address. So if you're in a position to help the person that you're interacting with make the call or access this website, this might mean that they're more likely to seek help there and then. And it's especially true for someone who is in full crisis scenario, and they might be in a position where they're scared, they're overwhelmed, they're lacking confidence, and they're not wanting to seek any help alone, or they're not in a stable position to make decisions. You would be the best place to sort of know that through your interaction. And on the orange box that you can see where it's highlighted other support, there's some additional sources of support. And those are organisations listed that may be contactable or may be useful to add to the sort of the financial crisis and get more advice. And those organisations are Home Energy Scotland, Shelter, Social Security Scotland, Breathing Space, Clear Your Head, and Salvation Army. So the next slide shows a single side view. So let's take a look at that slide. And you can see this essentially is the single side view, and it takes you through each of the steps with the green bar at the top highlighting what's the problem, an arrow directing to what some of the options are, and then further on, where can I get help? So this is a little bit of insight into what this leaflet is about and how it works. And now you've had a little bit of an insight on it. How do you feel that you could use this leaflet? And would really like to hear from you on how you feel that you can use this leaflet. And please, if you want to put your hand up and speak, please remember to come off mute if you would like to speak, or if you'd even like to enter something into the chat, it'd be great to just get your insight into this as well. So maybe just to start it off, I could certainly see members of my team using this if people have, if they feel that they've interacted with somebody who would like a little bit more information beyond what we're offering at that moment in time. So sorry, Sam.
Stephen had his hand up, I think.
Stephen, thank you. Welcome, Stephen. Please
Hi, folks.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just say it was incredibly useful. I think like long overdue. It's great to see a document like that, because I'm a welfare rights officer with Aberdeenshire Support and Advice Team, and so I tend to be working with people that are a little bit further in the process and they come via referral. But almost everybody that I speak to mentions the lack of information when they didn't know what to do. And just to see everything like cohesively in one place, and for it being so easy to follow as well, I think it'll be hugely useful for people. It's certainly something that I suppose when I'm working with people directly, I'm able to provide them with this advice, but even just having it in one place like that would be useful for when I'm making an initial contact with somebody to send that out to them. So yeah, I think it's great. It's a really nice piece of work here.
Thank you. That feedback's really valuable, Stephen. Really appreciate that, and specifically from myself, who is at the front line and who just interact that closely with people who may present with financial crisis like this.
Can I just come in as well here, Versha? I think that is really useful feedback, and I think it echoes the sentiments that we thought about it when we first saw the leaflet and chose then to take this on to deliver it during Challenge Poverty Week. What you're seeing here, we haven't finished the session yet, but what you've seen in the leaflet and this session is stage 1 of the training. So there will be further training, more in-depth training. So there might be something that your team want to pick up on, Stephen, in maybe the stage 2 or the stage 3 training, but we haven't developed that yet. It was all hands to the pump to get the first session delivered, but it isn't the end of the journey. It will continue.
I do wonder, Sam, if it's okay if I come in as well. Stephen, you did highlight that as early as possible to get this information out to people. We're well aware that, you know, as soon as people are finding themselves in difficulty, to access that help and available is actually the best solution rather than wait for things to go on. I'm just wondering if there's maybe examples of, you know, people and organisations that are sitting here today that could have that, maybe that step before Stephen, to have that opportunity to have that conversation using the leaflet.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just racking my brains as to, because traditionally this is the kind of thing that would be really useful in any sort of like surgery, you know, like any kind of public space. Obviously that's kind of limited just now, and but so we can certainly feed back. My team could all get our head together as a few of us here today and see if it step it we could get us out. Like housing have got a really good kind of initial link with people usually as well. There's loads and loads of streams that could get this out to people, like you said, earlier rather than once crisis kind of hits.
I think Tricia's got a hand up as well, please. Tricia, do you want to come in?
Yeah, we've got a lot of people coming through our food larder, and the main issue there is poverty, and really we're having conversations and asking people through our project. Having a leaflet like this would be able to identify where they need help. So it really helps us as an organisation to be able to train up our volunteers and for our staff to know exactly where people need to go. The difficulty just now is people don't know where to go and don't know where to go to get the right help. And there's been a lot of difficulties actually going round in circles of actually finding closed doors and accessing the right support. And we've been helping people get through the bureaucracy and the barriers. So actually having something that actually clearly defines and gives clarity to us would really, really help us. And that helps the people that we're supporting.
Can I ask which organisation it is, Tricia, please?
We're Grampian Opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Because I know there were some leaflets done across various areas, and Geary was one of them, of a where to turn to leaflet, which gives more information than this, but it doesn't take you through the steps in the same way this does. So both leaflets have a purpose, but there is a where to turn leaflet as well for Geary. If you haven't got that, let me know and I'll find it for you.
We've been providing the where to turn to leaflet, but it's people come with such a multitude of different
agreed,
you know, issues, but we find that because people are using the larder most frequently, it's financial issues,
yeah,
and benefits. So
yeah,
and it's usually it's an urgent need as well. So we're needing to help people urgently to find the best place to signpost them to. So that's why something that really helps, gives clarity, and yeah, it's helpful.
There's a comment come in the chat as well, Versha, if I can, from Julia, sorry, apologies, Julia. As a social worker, I could disseminate the leaflet together with privacy notice and team info. Very useful, thank you. And Wendy Andrews, is it possible to go back to the previous screen to see the steps / bulk of the information, please? And we've got Sophie, who I know is from CFINE. Apologies, I can't come on to video or speaker due to having to be in the office just now, but I'm a development worker for CFINE, developing the Aberdeenshire Mobile Pantry. It is going to be launching soon in several locations, so we would really benefit from these. No problem, Sophie. We'll make sure you get some. Okay, Wendy, that's the previous screen up. Wendy, do you want to come in? Your hand's gone up.
It has, yes. Good morning. I haven't actually started my role yet, so I can't tell you the organisation that I'm with, but I've just come along for a look and to gather some information before I start. But what I really like about this leaflet is that there are the actual telephone numbers as well, because I've found that some people are really not keen just to send an email off because they want to be able to talk to someone straight away, you know, or to at least know that somebody is dealing with their issue or being able to give them advice. So I do like that people have got the option to either drop the email, find the website, or give people a call.
Thanks, Wendy.
There's also Dawn's got a hand up as well.
Yeah, sorry, I've only just really joined the meeting, and I was aware that this piece of work was taking place through my colleague Jill Smith. I suppose the issue for me would be trying to make sure that if we've got something like this, that we're sharing it with all our different partners consistently, you know, across the 6 administrative areas. So, you know, if it's because part of the thing is making sure that, you know, you're including all the different groups or individuals or that, and to sort of have a consistent approach to that, so that, you know, we know that we're, you know, social worker have had it, or the GPs have had it, or the link workers, you know, things like that. So if we had a, you know, a list, you know, asking us to make sure that we were distributing this to, you know, all the relevant groups, it would be good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Dawn.
I think we've got links in across public health and community planning officers, but the whole point is it needs some training for volunteers potentially to go along with the leaflet, and that's the purpose of today, is delivering that. So absolutely we need to make sure the spread is far and wide, but I think it needs to be used as a tool rather than just something that's dropped in with a food parcel, say. And I think Jill will continue into the next part of the session, which will explain how to open those conversations and how we would expect third sector or any organisation taking this on to inform their volunteers or staff to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's probably about the right time to move on.
Thank you, Bersha and Sam. Really, thank you all for your contribution there, definitely, and obviously your support for the development of this leaflet. And it is so encouraging that you're going to find this useful and beneficial for your roles, and obviously supporting the individuals and clients that you come, that you support and work with. So moving on to obviously having that conversation whilst using the leaflet. So ask the question, here are some suggestions of maybe how you could start the conversation. So a few ideas that we've pulled together. So offering, can I share with you information that other people have found helpful? Can I ask if you've seen this leaflet? What do you know about the welfare team, Citizens Advice Bureau, Home Energy Scotland? Can I give you more information on any of these? When someone accesses our service, there may be more help we can provide. Can I help you with anything else? There are lots of people struggling with money at the moment. Would you know where to get support if you needed it? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on contacting another organisation that can offer help? So just a few opening questions that perhaps you could use to start this conversation. It would be really helpful in the chat bar if maybe you just comment if you would find these questions useful, valuable, or if you would find an opportunity within your role to use them. The key is to offer the information to individuals. We all know people will respond better if they are offered rather than being told. People don't like to be felt as if the finger is being pointed. It's also important to mention that some individuals will not want to have a brief conversation and would prefer to take the leaflet away. If this is the case, remind them that you're here if they need you. Also, if it's felt appropriate, you can always mention the leaflet when you next see them to find out if it was helpful or if they need your assistance. Some tips. We've asked the question, the individual wants to have a conversation. Let's think about the following. Think about the types of questions you use. Open questions are best. Start a question with a why, how, what, describe, tell me about. Using these words, it will allow the answer to be much more detailed than yes or no. The leaflet asks the first opening question in step 1, what's the problem? It's important that we listen actively. It shows that we're interested in the other person and what they are saying. This can help put the other person at ease, allowing them to talk openly. Please be patient and don't interrupt. Give the other person time to speak. They might be struggling, feeling embarrassed about what they are saying. Pick up on those non-verbal cues. This can provide valuable information about a situation, including how the other person is feeling and how they're receiving the information you're providing. Pay attention to their body movements, the tone of their voice, eye contact, gestures of the limbs, the head, and the expressions of the face. These things mean a lot. Empathy. We need to show empathy. Try and put yourself in the other person's shoes. Try to see their point of view. Respect the other person, even when you may be disagreeing. Remember, people may forget what you say, but they certainly won't forget how you made them feel. I am sure I am saying these tips with a gentle reminder, as I'm well aware that I've told none of us anything new. But these tips will help us move through the different stages in the leaflet. I don't know if anybody's got any comments from the questions or from any of these tips when using with the leaflet. Sam, I don't know if there's been any comments in the chat.
We have from Ryan Coleman. I think this is fab. We'll steal the template to use in my area, Mid Wales, if that is okay. Can you share the link to where to go leaflet to, please? Ryan, I can send one on to you if you want to let me have your email address, or you want to pop it in the chat. I can pick it up from there and send that on. But I don't think any of us would have any objection to anybody using the template, would they? No.
As Versha mentioned, they are accessed on the website, and you'll see a selection from across Scotland. Like Versha says, they're in leaflet format and poster format, and also there's some alternative language ones as well. So they're available to access. We can share the link as well. I think for me, this is such a vital tool, this leaflet, and how it's used. And I think, like Stephen says, the earlier we use this leaflet with people that are facing financial problems, the better. We want to ensure people get the cash support that they require. I hope we can all use this leaflet in our day-to-day lives with clients, maybe with friends, maybe with families. And let's see more and more people access the entitlements that will improve their situations in the long term.
So that brings us to the end of our presentation. We do have some time for questions now, so if anyone would like to raise their hand at the top of the screen or put your questions into the chat bar, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Somebody's put in, we're using a 3-message approach. There is support available. Get support as soon as possible before it becomes a crisis. It's never too late to get support. But no, and linking to this leaflet will be fantastic. No questions, just great feedback.
That probably brings us on nicely to this bit. We would really appreciate your feedback on the session. As Versha said at the beginning, it's our first time delivering it. Sam is going to put a link into the chat for a short questionnaire or survey. And yeah, if you could just take a couple of minutes to fill it out, we would really appreciate any feedback or comments you had about the session today.
That's the link in there now.
Thank you. I'll also pop in links to some of the statistics that were mentioned earlier.
It's just going to give everybody a few minutes just to follow the link and answer our evaluation questions. And whilst we're doing that, I would like to thank everybody for coming along to the session this morning. I hope you found the information useful and that you feel as if it can complement the use of the leaflet in the future. We will ensure that you get copies of the Aberdeenshire version of the leaflet when we receive it. But as we've highlighted, it will be available on the website as well, and you can order copies or download via that as well. But we'll certainly give that details to you when we receive them. So thank you all for your participation, and also thank you to our presenters this morning. Versha, Sam, Emer, thank you very much. And hopefully everybody enjoyed it.
There's a comment just come in if I can, Jill. Jacqueline Pauline, oh hello. Think once the GP surgeries open up again, we will see an increase in people in poverty and in need of help financially. I don't think any of us could disagree with that at all. And I think, Jacqueline, if I'm right, you're the employability team and you're going to be linking in by being in GP surgeries?
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to be Turriff and Portsoy.
Brilliant. Thanks, Agnes, that means a lot. And as I said, could you pass on the thanks to the lived experience group, because I think those quotes just make it hit home what it can be like for people. So that was really good.
I definitely will, guys. Yeah.
Thanks, Agnes. Julia, that's what Jill has just said. At the moment, the Aberdeenshire leaflet isn't available. As soon as it is, we will let you know and send you the links to access it as well. So that's not a problem at all. Ryan's saying UC uplift, NI increase contributions, end of furlough, end of ban on evictions. So much trouble coming down the line. Totally agree. Increase in fuel costs too. And I think we've got stock across Aberdeenshire that is quite old stock, which is no different than other areas, I guess. But we know that people really do face the choice of, do I heat my home or do I feed my family? Because, you know, the insulation and the cost of maintaining that, keeping that house warm is just insurmountable. Gillian, Devon Vale Community Hub. Feel it would be beneficial to have copies available once they are ready. Totally agree, Gillian, and you do a great job. Surprising, isn't it, making the connections when they say where they're from. That seems to be it. I think the final thing is for anybody that couldn't make the session, the recording of the session will be made available in due course. So Dawn, I appreciate you came in partway through. So if you did want to see the beginning of it, you'll be able to watch it back when it's available.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Stephen, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. I think that's it. There's no more questions coming forward. It's just thank yous. No problem, Ryan. Glad we've motivated you. Wendy, feedback submitted. Thank you for the session. Looking forward to seeing the leaflet and utilising it. We all are, Wendy. We all are. Yeah. So it was just a shame that things out with our control meant we couldn't show you the Aberdeenshire leaflet today. But it's on its way. I think if that's everything, I'll stop the recording and thank everybody for their attendance. It's been really useful to get your feedback. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.